all of tonight's rescues are true stories. We've sometimes used actors and stuntmen, but everything you see is based on the accounts of the people involved. They've helped us to reconstruct the events as they happened. Tonight on 999, right place, right time. The passing pilot who comes to the rescue of a town threatened by an industrial inferno. Plus the Scottish farmer battling to save his own life after an appalling accident miles from home. When firefighters respond to an emergency call, they never quite know what to expect. It could be a hoax, it could be a minor fire that's out before they even get there, or it could be the biggest, most dangerous job of their career. Certainly the watch at North Allerton Fire Station in North Yorkshire had no idea what the day had in store when they reported for duty on December the 28th, 1996. By midday, they were in the front line fighting a fire at a gas plant that 100 firefighters and 20 fire engines hadn't managed to get under control. Explosions were going off all over the place, and there seemed little that anybody could do until an ordinary member of the public arrived and offered his help. The plan that he and the fire officers devised to extinguish the fire involved taking huge risks with their own lives. We've used a stuntman in some of the scenes, but all the others involved in our reconstruction take part as themselves.
I'd only been there just over 7 weeks. It was coming up to the Christmas time. It was a cold period, so probably their busiest time. The factory was empty and I was working in the yard alone, loading a wagon up, ready for deliveries on Monday morning.
It was the quiet graveyard shift, but gas leaking from an accidentally damaged tank was to change all that.
The cloud of gas moved with the wind towards the entrance. The fireball ignited, just like something out of the movies, really. My first thoughts were, I'm dead. I just can't get out of this.
The leaking gas had found a flame, setting off a chain of explosions.
I can't remember running through the fire. My eyes were closed and I wasn't breathing.
Supply pipes ruptured, spewing out liquid gas and fueling a 1,000-degree inferno.
I could see the size, the fireball and the explosions of the gases. I saw some water, so I threw myself into the water. And it wasn't until I was sat there that I looked back and I could see the fire. I've never seen a fire as high as that, hundreds of feet up into the air. I thought to myself, oh, did I get out of there?
At 10:39, the first of 36 999 calls made the fire brigade aware that they faced a huge fire.
My first thoughts were, this is an interesting one. I'm not sure how really we're going to get to even to do the assessment.
David Wynne quickly declared a major emergency, and fire crews were called in from across the county.
Unknown number of liquid petroleum gas cylinders.
Our main tactics in the early stages were just to try and get as much water as possible onto the fire to try and prevent further explosions from taking place, with no real tactics of where we were aiming.
Without a doubt, would have had some major injuries or fatalities if crews had gone sort of right into the heart of the fire at that stage. There were many cylinders likely to explode. There was fractured pipe work at various parts around the site, so I really had to know what's the worst scenario.
I knew there were two 30-ton tanks on the site because our plans identified that, and that caused me considerable concern because we weren't quite sure how stable or unstable those tanks were. I can only estimate what the damage would be, but certainly the fireball would have caused severe damage way beyond 400 metres. A number of houses were within 50 and 100 metres of the site, so they certainly would have been involved in a serious fire.
Two 30-ton bullets now being affected by heat. Full evacuation.
We requested the police evacuated people to a half-mile radius around the site. And with a gas installation, we made a request to our main control asking for advice from the gas industry. But it takes a period of time for them to get the right person.
Incredibly, the right person was a few hundred feet above them. Ken Davis used to be a fighter pilot. Now he's a specialist gas engineer with just the knowledge they needed.
Round about 10:30, we were flying and we spotted the first part of the fire. I knew there was a filling plant there, nothing to do with the company I work for Cala Gas. I've been with them 20 years. They spent a lot of money actually training me on the safety side of things. So I decided then to land and drive down in the car, turn up and help if I could.
Within 2 hours, 100 firefighters and 20 appliances were there.
Well, it didn't look too good actually when I turned up because I was in flying kit. I must have thought, well, who's this guy?
Ken did a very good job of convincing myself that he had considerable experience.
So I'm looking. We got some plans and photographs of the site. He then volunteered to go up in the hydraulic platform. We were very fortuitous that somebody came to us who was unprompted.
You could see that the whole site was being fuelled by the two 30-ton storage tanks in pipework. After being up there quite some time, we identified the relief valve stacks.
We decided to move the sprays that had been positioned early on in the incident so that the tanks would be well cooled.
The options we had available to us really were attempt to close the valves off and put it out, or let it burn, and it was going to burn for a number of days, possibly even weeks.
The longer we left it, the more the danger enhanced because of the heat on the tanks.
So the only way really is to get in there and put it out.
We've got protecting the site.
But they still needed to find the quickest and safest route to the vital gas valves. A recce was essential.
We'd really like to know a little bit more.
Three of us went in, myself, another officer, and Ken Davis, to see how feasible it was.
The amount of flame, the amount of heat, it was frightening.
We approached with great caution. A number of cylinders had exploded, and we were naturally very concerned that we were going to be the next target.
It was just total devastation. We couldn't see the tanks.
As we got nearer to where the tanks were, we got down very low to get the best sort of view that we could and identified the best route in.
We went back and spoke to David and put this plan together. Flanges and stuff cracking all the time.
Lose the valve group and then we're in trouble. I was grateful to know that they'd found a route.
My main concern is that once we get in, we can get out safely. So
it was a calculated risk, there's no doubt at all. The issue really was how safe we could make it under the circumstances. And the plan was as much about the safety issues as it was about actually turning the valves off and dealing with the fire itself.
I know what the valves look like. I know how they'll be turned off. David wasn't going to let me go in at that stage, and what I was worried about was that if the fire team had gone in there, they wouldn't know which ones to turn off.
On balance of things, Ken's expertise, I didn't have any hesitation, really. There was a lot of nervous tension as we took half an hour to 3/4 of an hour to make sure that all the safety factors were in place and they were hopefully going to work if they were necessary.
We're going to have 2 branches, 3 people on each branch. We're going to have Dean at head of
Just
wall.
prior to going into the incident, what went through my head was the responsibility of taking the team in, and I wondered what they were thinking.
Keep your visors down, keep your flash hoods on. OK, let's go for it.
The tactics were to take 2 high-pressure sprays of water, for them to overlap so that they're protecting everyone in the team. The noise from the fire itself was horrific. There was the noise of the spray jets themselves. So communication between the teams very quickly became impossible. My greatest worry was that the water spray had extinguished the flames. That was the last thing we wanted to do.
Having put the fire out, there could have been a major gas leak, which is just as bad as, perhaps even worse than when we started, because an uncontrolled gas leak will eventually find a source of ignition and we finish it with a bigger explosion than caused the initial problems. If things started to go wrong, how were we actually going to get the crews out quickly and safely and get to a safe distance? They were my main concerns.
It's very difficult to describe the feeling that you get when you know you're in the middle of a huge ball of flame protected by a thin wall of water. You have some confidence from the fact that you've done it before, but it just seems very unnatural. The sooner we turned the valves off and got out, then the better.
At that stage, we were pushing the flame away from the valves. So I realised that now it's my turn, off I go. So I pushed my way around the team and climbed up over the ends of the tanks and turned the first one off.
The whole team looked round and looked at their nearest partner. The screeching was the pipe works and so on, equalising out.
It really didn't make any difference to the flame. We still had a huge flame because it was being primed by the other one.
To get to the second set of valves, we had to go through a gap which was barely big enough for one man to get through.
We had to actually squeeze between the wall and the first tank, and we only managed to get the one crew through. The firemen had done their job, and all I was worried about that I was going to let the side down by not getting the valves turned off. Within 30 seconds of closing the valves, the flame was out.
It had taken 6.5 hours to put out the fire, and 600 people were finally allowed home. Later, the company involved were ordered to pay fines and costs totalling £70,000.
There was lots of congratulating each other, slaps on the back. Ken took a lot of those, and it was a very satisfying feeling.
I think Ken, on a personal note, went beyond what anybody could have been expected to do. He's not paid as a firefighter. So my thoughts for Ken are just really admiration. The actions of everybody from both fire, police and anybody that was involved in the incident, I really just have to, the cliche is take my hat off to them and say congratulations and well done.
What you've got to remember with this stuff, it's normally very safe. I've worked for Cala for 20 years and we've never had a problem. They spend all this money on training and sometimes I always thought they used to go over the top with training and safety and thought I'd never ever use it. So it's come in handy really.